Welcome to three-part series of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. We have curated the whole book in three-part series with 10 minutes video each. What did your parents teach you about life, money and finding a career? Did they tell you should go to school, study hard, and get a good job afterwards? Probably. Believe it or not, though, that's not actually great advice, but it is what most parents tell their kids, and most school teachers too. Oh, while we're speaking of school, here's another question for you. While you were there, what did you learn about making money? If it was anything like most schools, then the answer is probably nada, zilch, nothing. No need to fret, though, most of us have the same experience. We're never taught what you need to know to get, and stay, rich. But that information does exist. Rich families pass it down from generation to generation. But how do you get access to it? Well, you see, rich people don't work for money. Before we get to the famous financial lessons, we're going to tell you a story. The story of 9-year-old Robert Kiyosaki. This was around 1950s. Robert and his friend Mike were curious boys with big ambitions. When they grew up, they wanted to become rich and make a lot of money. But just how they were going to accomplish that they didn't actually know. So, after a failed attempt to produce coins from melted toothpaste tubes, the boys decided to get some advice. They asked their dads how they could start becoming rich. You might be able to guess what Robert's own well-educated but poor dad replied: go to school, study, and find a good job. It's familiar advice, but it's pretty misguided. If you follow guidance like this, you'll spend your entire life breaking your back to increase your pay, while others, the government, bill collectors, and your bosses, take most of the reward. In other words, Robert's poor dad might as well have said, go and join the rat race, the endless routine of working for everyone but yourself. Now, lots of people still follow poor dad's mantra, but many do it out of a sense of fear, a powerful sense of distress at the idea of violating the expectations that society drills into us. A good job is what leads to wealth, we're told, so we study hard as kids and work even harder as adults. The result? We may be avoiding poverty, but we're certainly not growing any wealthier. But there are some people who don't teach that mantra to their kids, people who know how money is created, increased and maintained. Rich people, in other words, people like Mike's father, the rich dad who became a financial mentor to both boys. So what did Mike's dad suggest? At first, nothing. He made a deal with the young Kiyosaki, offering to teach him what he knew about money if the boy would work for him at the measly rate of 10 cents an hour. Robert agreed, but after a few weeks of being underpaid, the boy returned to his rich dad, seething with anger and ready to quit. You've exploited me long enough, he said, and you haven't even kept your promise. You taught me nothing about money in all those weeks. But there it was, his first lesson, delivered by his new mentor with a slight smile. Robert Kiyosaki had just learned that life often pushes you around. And he'd learned that working for money does not make you rich. Which is why, rich people don't work for money. So you might ask yourself, if the rich don't work for money, then how do they get wealthy? Through theft, maybe, or by winning the lotto? Educate yourself about finances, identify real assets, and invest in them. Let's answer that question from the last blank. No, it's none of the answers above. The rich become rich by making their money work for them. Instead of spending all their income on fripperies and luxuries, they invest a portion of it in assets of various types. And then, rather than working for money, they let their assets make money for them. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. When we left off, Robert was still just a kid, and the word asset didn't belong in his vocabulary. But Mike's dad, the rich dad, was about to change all that. One day he sat the boys down and explained to them that the rich buy assets, whereas the less well-off buy liabilities, often in the mistaken belief that it is, in fact, assets they're acquiring. In truth, he explained, an asset is anything that adds money to your wallet. A liability, on the other hand, is something that takes money away. This differentiation is very important, and not many people get it right. So let's look at an example. A house is often considered an asset, right? But actually, it's one of the biggest liabilities you can have. Buying a house often means working your entire life to pay off a 30-year mortgage and property taxes, meaning it takes money out of your wallet. A house bought with a mortgage works against you in two ways. First, you're guaranteed to have a massive expense taken away from your income every month, for the next 360 months, and this is a telltale sign of a liability. Second, those 360 payments could have been invested in way more lucrative assets that put money in your wallet. Rich Dad phrased the lesson as simply as he could for the two boys. If you want to be rich, all you have to do is identify true assets and buy them. Spend your life buying liabilities, though, and you'll never make it. Rich Dad explained that a poor person's salary goes straight to covering immediate expenses, like rent, tax and food. A middle-class person's salary needs to cover similar expenses too, as well as liabilities like a mortgage, school loans, credit cards, and other forms of debt. But rich people? Instead of needing a salary, their assets bring in enough money to provide for them and often leave them with enough to invest again, like stocks, bonds, or real estate you rent to tenants. The result of that reinvestment is that their income goes up once more, meaning that the rich keep getting richer. This is so important, I am going to say it one more time. If you can keep your liabilities and expenses low, you'll be able to invest what's left over in assets, and have your money work for you. Do that, and before long you'll find yourself amassing a small fortune. Mind your own business. Make money for yourself, not your employer. At this stage, you might feel like objecting. Sure, it's easy to criticize secure, rat race jobs while telling people to acquire assets, but how can you afford to buy those assets if you don't have a job in the first place? Is the money meant to fall from the sky? No one's telling you to quit your day job, not yet, at least. What Kiyosaki does stress, though in his third lesson, is the importance of minding your own business. Now, that doesn't mean keeping your nose out of other people's lives, not in this context. It simply means tending to your own finances, and making money also for yourself, not only your employer. In other words, minding your own business means making money through your portfolio of assets rather than through promotions, bonuses and raises. When it comes to personal finances, though, there's a difference between your profession and your business. Your profession is whatever you do 40 hours a week to pay the bills, buy groceries, and cover other living costs. Usually, it gives you a specific title such as restaurant owner or sales manager. Your business, on the other hand, is what you invest time and money in to help grow your assets. So, how does this tie in with Robert's journey toward financial success? Well, when he was young, his poor dad advised him to focus on finding a secure and well-paying job. His rich dad, on the other hand, told him to start buying assets. Guess whose advice he took? That's right, rich dads. Robert opened his first business at age 9, where he paid his friend's sister to rent out comic books to the kids in the neighborhood. Stay tuned by subscribing to understand how Robert made it big in business world in part 2 of this 10 in book series.